Yo, what is up, guys? It's your boy Jelson here, and today we're back with a brand new NBA video. And in today's video, it's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be more of a podcast style form video, and it's with my good friend, Timberwolves podcaster, journalist, beat writer, content creator, Twitter user, Kyle Theige, whatever you want to call him. So it's a little bit different, and I appreciate Kyle coming on the show. So let's hop right into it. What's up, guys? We're here with Kyle Theige, and we're talking about a little bit of Timberwolves stuff. How are you doing, Kyle?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me on.
For sure. Um, well, I kind of gave you a rundown before this whole thing, but the viewers weren't able to see that behind the scenes stuff. And we're going to be talking about just a little bit of everything Timberwolves wise. I haven't been able to watch as much Timberwolves as like I did last year, as much as I probably prefer bets because of school. Um, but I want to go over just a quick rundown. As I said, I have a list here of stuff that I want to go over. But let's start off with just some shooting struggles off of the bench. I think there was a good point being made by Chris Finch the other day how Wendell Moore got to start over Jaylen Nowell because we needed just a guy that could score off the bench. Um, and I think that was a smart idea. I was, along with pretty much every other Timberwolves fan, shocked that Wendell Moore got the nod to start. But especially facing John Morant a couple of games ago, you kind of want a guy that can defend. And that's no shade at Jaylen Nowell, but we know he's a pure scorer, not as great of a defender. But Wendell Moore is kind of the reverse, if we're being honest here. He's not a fantastic scorer, but he's a pure defender. And, what do you think about that? Do you think that that was the right move? And how can we kind of adjust shooting wise? What can we do to improve our shooting off the bench?
Well, I mean, to improve shooting in general, I think they're 27th right now in the league in three-point percentage, which is terrible. They obviously lost Malik Beasley, who is again, top five in volume for the Jazz. I don't know, probably top 10 in percentage. But that's I know we've joked as a collective Timberwolves Twitter group that like Jared Vanderbilt's shooting threes now. That sucks. But they didn't send out outside of Malik. I mean, Patrick Beverly's having like one of his worst seasons of his career as a shooter. And yeah, Vando's hit a couple, but this is why the discussion about is this team better without Karl Anthony-Towns after they beat the Grizzlies? It's like, oh no, probably not. Probably need that guy that can shoot above 40% from three. So with him out, kind of shifts everyone's role. And clearly then they would just had some other banged up guys like Torian Prince and stuff. So to your original question, I didn't mind the Wendell Moore start. I was shocked just like you were. But he also might be, let's think about this for a year from now, 2 years from now. He might be being groomed to kind of be, who knows, the running mate for Anthony Edwards if they don't re-sign D'Lo or they move off of D'Lo. So how are they going to fix the shooting off the bench? Getting Torian Prince back would help. Hopefully maybe this weekend or when they play the Blazers, like they can get him back. But just making shots. I know that's not the most analytical response, but everyone on this team, I think, is shooting below career average from three.
Right.
So if Jaylen Nowell, again, you said it really well. Like he's a scorer, not necessarily a spot up guy. More minutes for Nas while Karl's out. I mean, Nas stretches the floor. And then just more volume from your starters. Like D'Lo needs to shoot better. He's been, really good these last 10 games, but Ant needs to just, maybe shoot at a higher clip. Jaden McDaniels needs to give you, more than he was giving you in that disappointing OKC loss. So this is kind of the thing, right? Like Austin Rivers isn't a standstill just flamethrower. Bryn Forbes, I guess, but he does not a lot of other stuff. So you just kind of got to hope maybe that the starters can score more and kind of spread the floor, and then your bench guys, like you said, get them rolling with Jordan McLaughlin, get them rolling with Jaylen Nowell, and just try to stem the tide and just lean into Anthony Edwards while Karl's out.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with all of that. As you said, having Torian Prince and Jordan McLaughlin like both come back is going to be huge for us because, well, if you look at the plus minus, we've all seen that Jordan McLaughlin is basically the best player of all time stats, and
Yeah.
so I think Jordan McLaughlin coming back, even creating more open shots for those people off the bench will definitely help. And Torian Prince has been a guy that's, through the shooting struggles we've had as a team, it seems like he's been very consistent. So having him come back and then adding Matt Ryan here, I mean, who knows how many minutes he's gonna get? Like, I doubt it's gonna be much, but I feel like it's just another option that if somebody's struggling, we can have Matt Ryan come in, maybe get a minute. Towards the end, need some clutch shooting, get like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it may be. I think Matt Ryan's going to be a huge help for when we absolutely need scoring.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm still, as people probably know, like scarred about the whole Luka Garza thing. It's just, I don't know. I know it was fun to have your phone get a notification that they signed Matt Ryan, not from the Colts, but like, I don't know, man. Like, I got to see him check in
Right.
because Luka Garza, even Josh Minot, like, hell, AJ Lawson was really good. Like, he's a good player. He should be on someone's roster. Those guys didn't even sniff the floor. So I know it was fun to see some Timberwolves news, but I don't know how much Matt Ryan's going to play. I mean, you got to remember too, and this is maybe the non-sexy part. The Lakers, when they cut Matt Ryan, weren't good.
Yeah.
Like they were like, 14th in the West, and they lacked shooting. So a team that was bad doesn't have the depth that Minnesota has and can't shoot. Cut a guy who is depth and a shooter. So I don't put a ton into Matt Ryan. I wouldn't pencil him into your fantasy lineups, but he is a really good shooter. There's some really good tape on him. He's like a beloved teammate too. So he might have been more of a long-term play. They're building a dynasty down there in Des Moines. So maybe he's just going to go, spread the floor for Luka Garza, but they do have options. And I think it's a good point. It's just, I don't know how much Chris Finch is going to trust guys that he just met. Like he's probably just going to lean more into like, okay, Bryn Forbes, more minutes for Austin Rivers until they, again, the Taurean Prince thing. He's not a sexy player, but he was shooting like 39% from three. That's a big deal. He might have been leading the team. So they got to get him back. And I think that'll solve a lot of woes, both offensively and defensively.
Right. 100%. And I kind of agree with you on that. I feel like it's more of a long-term project here with Matt.
Yeah.
And really, I mean, that's kind of the whole point of the G League, right? Anyone there, Luka Garza, even AJ Lawson before he was cut, guys like that. Those are guys that you want to see develop and then gain trust, with Chris Finch and then the coaches in Iowa. I feel like Matt Ryan and those guys will be able to. I think they're not just players that will just stick in Iowa. I feel like they're gonna get minutes. Maybe not this year, and in future years though. I feel like they're gonna be players that can be key assets to coming off of the bench. Potentially even game-changing assets, but maybe not this year or even next year, but possibly in the future.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they have this is the optimist take, right? Like they have a lot of good young talent, and they not only on the roster, the guys you can think of, Ant, Jaylen, Nas, Jaden, but they also have a lot of development guys. I mean, again, we've already seen it with Wendell Moore getting a chance. I don't know six people on earth more high on Josh Minot than myself. I think that guy is special. You start to look at his stats in the G League, it's more than just, filling it up and scoring. Like he is an athletic freak, and they just don't have a lot of those on this team all of a sudden. So they have a lot of guys that, can be development chips that can help next year for sure and down the road. But you're in a situation now at like 11 and 12, like we got to find some guys that can step in and play minutes, later tonight against the Pacers or when they go on this long road trip. And I don't know how much the G League guys are going to answer that. It might just, again, be Chris Finch kind of trusting the guys that he, saw in training camp and have kind of been there for these first 25% of the season.
Right. And I think looking like, as you said, we need to find an answer now. We need something ASAP. Like 11 and 12, we're 11th in the West. We need something now. And I think that transitions perfectly into we need D'Angelo Russell. Well, D'Angelo Russell has been starting to step up, and Rudy Gobert both, to really just put on their A game. We saw Shaq kind of call out Rudy Gobert, which to a degree I find kind of corny, but also I feel like, if it kicks Rudy in the butt and it gets him motivated, then I'm all for it. So I think D'Angelo Russell and Rudy Gobert really need to step up. And I think we should talk about how D'Angelo Russell is just, it feels like he's, with Karl Anthony-Towns off the floor for whatever reason, it feels like D'Angelo Russell is putting in more effort just all around, offensively and defensively. We were talking about, like me and a couple of my friends, and I've seen even you and Dane Moore and a ton of different people within the Timbers community talk about how we've seen D'Angelo Russell dive for the ball and get on the floor more times than I've ever seen in my, since he's been in the league in the past, 3 games. And I don't know if that's, a sense of sense of, desperation from D'Angelo Russell, or if that's just him, getting into his own. I don't really know. What do you think is going on with D'Lo and, inside his head or on the court and everything going on with his just the emphasis on the defensive side of the floor?
Yeah, I mean, this is a huge season for him. We talked about this in August, I guess, that his, kind of publicly two of his best basketball buddies are Devin Booker and Karl Anthony-Towns. Those guys got mega extensions this summer. They're all repped by the same agent, and D'Lo didn't. So D'Lo's the only guy kind of playing like of all the big time players on this team or whatever. D'Angelo Russell is the only guy who has no idea where he's getting checks from starting next September. So maybe that was part of it. Maybe seeing Karl go down. I mean, he had been playing better while Karl was on the still active, but just like a sense of, okay, this is my moment. Like, we're down probably what we think is our best player in Karl Anthony-Towns for the month. Is Ant ready to lead? I don't know. Is Rudy too new here to lead? Yeah. So D'Lo's just, again, been really impressed by his play. It hasn't directly led to just, he's not James Harden. He can't just elevate his team and kind of put him on his back, but he has been playing better. So that's a good thing. It's like you're playing better. You're giving your team more of a chance. You're doing it both ways. You're inspiring your young guys because the young guys do look up to him. But on the other side, too, it's like, okay, you want to be pessimistic. He's playing about the best that he's played maybe since he got here, and it's not moving the needle much. And it's like, well, if that's the case, is that something you worry about with a long-term extension? It's like, even at his best, it's not, increasing our margins that much. And would it be better to kind of, I guess, try to use those assets or those resources just to kind of trim around the roster in other areas? So he has been great these last 10 games. They need him, especially with Karl's out, because, again, the shooting thing, like, who else is going to be able to hit threes? Who else is going to be able to get to the line? I think he's finding more chemistry with Rudy as well. So those are things to look forward to. But, yeah, he's been great. It's just you kind of need him to be even better for these next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a couple people talk about this, and it might be like just absolutely terrible take, but the way he's been playing recently, almost like it kind of feels like he's been playing an off the bench role, but as a starter, and it
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, no, I like that.
yeah, it just kind of it feels like he comes in sometimes some games he tries to do too much, other games he doesn't do enough, and but then you get those specific games where he's just absolutely perfect, like the guy you need him to be, where he's hustling for rebounds, man-on-man defense, off-ball defense. Even, when you're playing pretty much any, defense that Chris Finch decides, okay, we need to run, whether it be high wall, drop coverage, no matter what, it feels like he will be a guy that's like, okay, I'll step in. But then at other times, it's just like, okay, I'm just going to take this play off. I'm going to take the next play off. I need a rest. And I feel like he's starting to realize, like, as you said, he needs a paycheck. He needs to know, like, where he's going to get it, whether it's an extension here or if he's going to get, a contract somewhere else. He needs to prove himself to those teams that he's going to be a guy that you can start and rely on to move the needle. And we haven't seen that quite as much as, like, me and many other Timberwolves fans would prefer to see. But all I can say right now is that D'Angelo Russell looks like he's stepping into his own, and it feels like, if he continues to kind of gradually pace himself, as you said, build a connection with Rudy Gobert, I feel like that needle will start to move just a little bit more. And I almost question, if, D'Angelo Russell was on any other team, is D'Angelo Russell a guy that could be a sixth man on a different team? Is that D'Angelo Russell's fit? Or is he going to be a pure starter for the rest of his career? I question that. What is your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, especially when you're like frustrated with his first 10 or so games, I know a lot of fans were like, can we flip the starting lineup and put Jordan McLaughlin in? That's where you got to step in and remind yourself that, like, there's a lot of politics that go into play. Like, professional sports isn't just about, it's not NBA 2K. So you can't have the guy that makes like 1.2 million starting over the guy that makes 30 million. It's just might make sense when you look at all the, the splits and the two-man things and the three-man lineups, but like when they get off the floor and you turn your TV off, like they're still interacting. Like they're in the locker room, they're on the plane. Like you can't really do that. So long term again, if you're D'Angelo Russell and you're in a contract year and like that's negotiations, probably the last thing you're going to do is like try to sell yourself short and be like, well, I'll come off the bench. Like, no, he wants to be a starting point guard. But then I think of like this summer with all the play, like they did like rankings on, I don't know, Bleacher Report and all this stuff. And like, he wasn't even like the top 22 point guard. So there's some credence to that, right? It's like, well, if you're not a top, I don't know, 25 point guard, there's only 30 starting point guard jobs. Would you be better suited to come off the bench? I still think I think there's guys you look around the league that are getting minutes that aren't as good as D'Lo from just a talent standpoint. He's still a really good passer. His defense is what it is at this point, but yeah, it's a good idea. But I don't think when you're like, okay, I want to go get 35 million a year for the next 5 years, you're gonna be like, yeah, I'll cut my minutes down. Like that's not how you want to do it. So he's been frustrating to start. A lot of other guys on this team have been frustrating as well throughout the season. But right now, he still is their best option. They don't have a lot of other options. And until McLaughlin's fully healthy, kind of getting his groove on again, he's the best they've got. So it's been good for Chris Finch to be able to trust him more because, again, where else do you go? Wendell Moore's fun, but you can't throw Wendell Moore into a meaningful game and he's played, all of 36 NBA minutes. That's just not going to happen. So, yeah, better play from D'Lo, maybe a potential off the bench six man, but for now, I think he believes that he's a starting point guard in this league.
Right, and I think it's one of those things where, like, there's a lot of takes going around and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, he just needs more time. It feels like just needs more time to build chemistry. Everyone, it seems like it's just kind of thrown off by the trade, and whether it's a new defensive scheme, new offensive scheme, like everything kind of changes. Season, like new season, new schemes, new players, everything changes. Year by year, and I feel like we just need more time to really see what everyone here is made of, because last year we had a leader in Patrick Beverley, and it spread to the other guys. But I want to see here for the last like the rest of the season, to be honest, here is I want to see who steps up. Maybe D'Angelo Russell can be that guy. I want to see who steps up. I want to see if we can flip this thing around, because in reality, we're not that far into the season. The season isn't over by any means or by any stretch of the imagination. So I think that having Karl Anthony-Towns, out of the, off the floor, being injured, this is the time for Rudy Gobert, D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards, everybody, to be honest, kind of step up here and really show what their worth is to this franchise. But more going on to like the Rudy Gobert train here is, as I mentioned, we saw Shaq kind of call him out, and it feels like he's less active on the boards, but part of it is it feels like he goes to Minnesota and he just gets like a different whistle. Like it feels like the refs are treating him different. So you can't, to a degree, it seems like he doesn't want to be too active to the point that he's, being a detriment to the team and getting too many fouls. But it also feels like, I guess as of recent, maybe not so much, but it feels like to start the season, he hasn't been quite the same player as he was in Utah.
Yeah, and that's been the unfortunate thing, because you look at like Utah, for example, where he played all of his career before coming to Minnesota, and it's like Walker Kessler, who the Wolves drafted and traded in the package for Rudy Gobert, is like kind of doing the same thing. Like he's having he just basically goes like 12-6 with 3 blocks, and all of his, baskets are dunks. He has a really high field goal percentage. It's like, man, like we traded all that stuff to get a guy who's just basically a little better than Walker Kessler. But again, that probably goes back to your patience thing. I do think that they're still trying to figure it out. I guess the only to push back on my own thoughts or our thoughts is like the Utah Jazz figured it out right away and found a fun style of basketball in game 1. So I'm with you that they're 11-12. They're a quarter way through the season. They have 60 some games left or whatever. But if it still looks like this at the 40 game mark, then you got to worry. Of course, you can sell yourself on the half the season's left, but there hasn't been that many moments this season to pin your hat on to be like, okay, that was a benchmark win. That Indiana one comes to mind, and then they immediately kind of fall apart after that. So I think Rudy's still trying to figure it out. Obviously, the two bigs thing was a lot to adjust for Karl, for Rudy, for Ant. But now with Karl out, probably the whole month of December, this is kind of about as comfortable as Rudy can be again. Like, you're the big man. You're going to be surrounded by a bunch of guards, some of which aren't that great at defense. But this is kind of his comfort zone now. He's obviously looked more comfortable running pick and roll with D'Lo. Maybe it'll come with Ant a little more. They're both like not comfortable with each other. So the early returns haven't been great. But at some point, you also just have to be like, this is the situation. We got to maximize what we have. We can't be worried about every pick we owe. Like, this is the bed we made, so we got to kind of lay in it. And I think, the rebounding stuff is weird. I mean, he's still grabbing a ton of rebounds, and they're like bottom 7 in the league in rebounding. But I think that just comes again, it's a broken record, but these guys got to get more comfortable being like, okay, we all got to dig in and get rebounds. Like, Ant, you're so athletic. Just get in and get 2 more rebounds a game. That's a big deal. That changes a lot at the end of the game. Same with Jaden. Like, Jaden, if you're going to be out there with a Kyle Anderson, a D'Lo, and an Ant, like, you might have to be like second in the team in rebounding while Karl's out. So again, they have a lot of guys that can do it, but the thing that frustrates you and I and everyone else listening is that through 23 games, they do it for a little bit and then they come back, and they do it for a little bit and they come back. It's like you're in a point now where, you got Portland coming up twice, Dallas coming up twice, all these teams that are 6, 7, 8, 9 in the West. You need to beat them and you need to bring it, because they're going to bring it too. They're thinking the same thing. Like, we got to beat Minnesota to keep collecting wins. So the overall thing on Gobert so far hasn't been great. I still believe in it. I still believe that you have enough talent to make it work, but he also has to just kind of bring it more and focus on, less post-ups so we don't drive ourselves crazy, and just protect the rim, grab the rebound, set hard screens, do what you did in Utah, and this team should be fine.
Yeah, I agree with all that. And let me tell you something, Kyle. Right before this, I was listening to Christmas music, and all I want for Christmas is a Rudy Gobert step back 3.
Oh my God! How about this? All I want for Christmas is like Rudy Gobert to just like finish all the lobs that he gets thrown to him, because that was one, like, the Wolves have I guess maybe like Derek Williams way back in the day. Like, the Wolves just haven't had a lot of high flyers. Not that Rudy Gobert is a high flyer, but they just haven't thrown a lot of lobs. Ant's not catching a lot of lobs. It's a lot more ISO, transition. So I would just like Rudy to, the one thing I thought when we got Rudy compared to Jared Vanderbilt was that his hands would be better. Because, we loved Vando, but his hands and his ability to catch low bounce passes and stuff I was like, Vando's hands. If Rudy's hands are just going to equate to Vando's hands, then let's just pack this up and go home. So I would like for Rudy to like catch some of these lob dunks, because he's getting good chances, and then if he catches those lob dunks, we can transition into your goal of like, hey, a step back 3, or maybe hit the rim. I don't know. He took that 1 3.
Oh no,
just putrid. So it's a good Christmas wish.
Maybe my New Year's resolution is Rudy Gobert hits half court shot. Maybe I should add that to the list.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he could win $25,000 for a charity or something. Like, just one time, if I could see him hit the rim on a 3, I've seen him in like shoot arounds and stuff. It's not a bad form. Watching guys shoot around in the morning or before a game, like, it's incredible. No one misses, right? Even Rudy Gobert, like, name the worst shooter you can think of, they're still making a ton of open shots. It's just something about getting in the game flow, and when you're guarded, it's just different. So yeah, I'm with you. If Rudy Gobert could hit 1-3 this season, we can just call the trade a win.
Right. And we were talking. You said the high flyer thing. How Rudy's like not necessarily a high flyer, but he's so tall that when he jumps, he gets so high. So he's kind of a high flyer. But, like, on a different topic though, Jaden McDaniels. So I don't know. I'm assuming you've been around Jaden before. So Jaden is a very tall human being.
Yeah.
And I've also been around Jaden, and what is he listed at? 6'8", 6'9", something like that.
He's probably Karl's height. Like, if you just stood them next to each other.
See, okay, I was standing next to Jaden McDaniels. I'm 6'8" myself. So.
Oh my God. Can you sign a 10-day? Screw Matt Ryan.
I heard the Lakers need a center. Yeah, no, I was standing next to him, and I'm like, this man is not 6'8" or 6'9". This man is a lot taller than that. He's probably 6'10", 6'11". We need to talk about Jaden McDaniels and just how it seems like he's taking that step. We knew he was a good defender, but it seems like he's having more games now where he's just putting everything together offensively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and anyone that's listening to this has probably been sick already this fall or winter, and if you're not, Godspeed, but you're going to be with some sort of thing. And I know that the bug that Jaden got, I mean, he's a wiry, thin guy. Like, you just get kind of punched in the face by this illness. So he was out for a week or so, kind of had to find himself a little bit. He was, I don't know, I feel like maybe the president of the Jaden McDaniels fan club. Like, he was terrible against the Thunder for the most part, but maybe he's still trying to get his legs. But before he went out on that illness, like, yeah, he was one of their best scoring options. He was, he started the season 3 or 4 games in, like, 0 from corner. Like, he just couldn't hit, but now his shots come around a little bit. The form looks good. It's obviously changed a little bit since he entered the league. But, again, this is one of those things when Karl Anthony-Towns goes out, and depending on what you think of Karl, like he's still getting a lot of shots, getting a lot of opportunities, touching the ball a lot. His usage rate's high for being on this team. And with him out, like you just got to kind of spread that around. Jaden has to do more. I am very happy that Jaden wasn't in that Jazz trade. But like if you're going to be worth what we think is 2 first-round picks in that Rudy Gobert trade, like you need to produce. You need to be a 12-8 guy every night. You can't go drop 3 points against the Thunder. So I want to see him continue to kind of take that leap offensively, because however this all turns out, and there's so many ways to look at it, and there's so many picks that they've given up, the future is Ant and Jaden. And for Ant to have a appropriate running mate in Jaden McDaniels, he has to kind of be on that, Mikal Bridges level where he's a knockdown shooter from 3. He guards the other team's best player on night in, night out basis. So I'm with you. I'm very excited. We hit a speed bump for a week or so when he got sick, but tonight against Indiana and moving forward, like I expect him to be put on like Mathurin for the Pacers and like try to shut these guys down. He's really their best defender on the roster, and they need him to be as good night in and night out as you and I think he is.
Yeah, and I mean, so I have this small thing, like just watching some of the film and obviously watching game in and game out. It feels like the problem with Jaden McDaniels in the corner 3-point shooting, he's been fine since like that rough stretch. It feels like he gets the ball and he almost thinks too much sometimes.
Yeah, yep.
But like, you see him just like hit a little crossover and then like take a mid-range shot. It's just pure, like it's just a pure jump shot, and it goes in a lot of the time. And I'll be going to the gym and I'm like, he has this little, like he'll shoot and he has like this arch in his back. It's weird, like it's.
Yep.
And I'm like, maybe I should try that. And I do it. And my shot ends up looking more like Rudy Gobert than it does Jaden McDaniels. But like, and you don't really get that as much when he's shooting like a mid-range shot where he doesn't have to think. He just dribble, shoot. Versus, I got the pass. I have to set, make sure my hands are good. Make sure the defender's not. He just gets his open shot and just shoots. And I think that's a big thing with Jaden. He's getting a lot more comfortable with, maybe not thinking as much. And really, I think that's going to be the key here is, him, first of all, learning how to not think, which is so weird. Like if you tell somebody that's not a basketball player, like, oh, just don't think, they're like, what? Why? Yeah. But just not thinking is the best thing you can do in basketball, unless you're being just like selfish with it, But I think Jaden McDaniels, as soon as he kind of figures it out, and he's been figuring it out, I feel like, as we've been talking about, he's going to be absolutely key, and he is the future of this Timberwolves team.
You know who the captains or the leaders of the not think squad are Naz Reid, Jordan McLaughlin, and Jaylen Nowell. And why is that? It's because they all kind of got their reps down in Iowa in a system that's, very much like move the ball, like cut, do these things that there are no, as much as we love Luka Garza, there are no stars in the G League. It's just everyone's on the same level. Everyone's pretty much making the same money. Like you got to buy into the system a little more. So for Jaden, it would have been great, I guess, in retrospect, if he would have, spent a month in Des Moines his rookie year. But we were so excited to kind of unleash this tall, gangly kid who was former Mr. Basketball, whatever, for high school. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm still very bullish on him. But again, some of his stuff too is like, it is difficult for him as we like Ant, we like D'Lo, but he doesn't have the opportunity to play with a guard. Like imagine like Jaden McDaniels with Halliburton, right? A guy that's trying to find. Jaden does cut, he does move without the ball pretty well, but there's also times too where he's just stagnant. Like, yeah, I just got to stand and watch D'Lo or Ant go ISO. So getting him more involved early, I think when his defense is on, his offense is a little more engaged, but he needs to be more of a scorer. We pretty much know now that he's elite defensively. He's a really good rim protector as well with that length, but I'm with you. The shot has come around. His mid-range game is, pretty dynamite. He also has, you're a tall guy. He also has like a really quick jump. I just feel like when he gets the ball into the basket, he's dunking it faster than like normal people do. It's like all of a sudden he's just like, oh wait, my elbows are at the rim. So getting him around the rim more to finish, this team isn't the best finishing team in the league, would be great. But I'm excited. I'm excited to have him back. It wasn't an injury. It was just an illness. And hopefully after a couple of days off, he has to be, I don't know, I guess to you, like he probably has to be their second or third best player in the month of December if they're going to spin this around and get above 500.
Right. And, as you said, I'm a tall guy myself. I can't say I get up with that much ease that man does. It's unreal with Jaden. Um, but as we said, it's not an injury, so we don't have to worry about him, coming in and, you know, God forbid you say it's a torn ACL, like right, like a
Yeah.
terrible injury, and you're just like, oh, he's losing some of his balance. He might not be as quick. He was just sick. I mean, he's gonna come in, might have some rust for a game or two, but he's still gonna be Jaden McDaniels, and you still know that he's young, and you still know that nothing has really interrupted his, his growth and development. And I think Jaden does need to be that guy. Like, obviously not that guy because you have Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony-Towns, Rudy Gobert, a ton of guys, but he needs to be a guy you can 100% rely on to not only take an open shot, but also, I'd say, create a shot for himself.
Right. I mean, dude, Jaden McDaniels, like next year, we talked about D'Lo. D'Lo's in a contract year. Next year, he's got to find a paycheck. But Anthony Edwards next summer is going to be offered a max rookie extension. He's going to take it, and then they're going to turn to Jaden, and they're going to have to pay him as well because he's going to be up for an extension or extension eligible. So if he goes from making $1.5, $2 million this year to like you're a 4-year, $80 million guy, well then you need to be, like I said, like 14-10 or 42% from the corners. Like we believe in you and we're patient and we're excited. You're only 22 years old, but at some point you do have to make one of those leaps. I mean, you see it, not comping them again, but like Mikal Bridges or Desmond Bane or all these other guys that were kind of lower round, first round picks. It's like you need to. I think Jaden McDaniels hasn't really made a leap in his career where it's just been a gradual, like nice, steady incline, like on a treadmill. It's just like 1% by a time. They need to like jack that up to like 5 percentage points on a treadmill. Like they need to make a curve up so that he is, again, like this team needs talent still that they can rely on because some of the young guys are so young. And that needs to be kind of his next 60 game plan is if you can stay healthy, how high on the treadmill can you increase that elevation on this leap you're trying to take?
Right. And it's like one of those things where it's like, you know, let's put an example for height. You're in middle school and everybody else is taller than you, and you're like, oh well, I know I have the potential to be taller because my parents are 7'2",
Yep.
and then you come in and then you're like, well, I'm growing like an inch, maybe half an inch a year, and then in high school you grow up, you grow 8 inches in a year, and it's like, well, this is that treadmill we're trying to get on top of. We're trying to get up. We want you to be a top tier player for us. We want you to not just be a steady grower. I mean, steady growing is fine, but we want you to be extraordinary.
Right.
And I feel like not. I think he knows that himself, that he has potential to be extraordinary, and I think the coaching staff knows that as well. It's just we need to find a way, and I don't know how much of it is just pure skill on his end, and how much of it is coaching, and how it's a perfect mix of everything that goes into a player and their growth. But I feel like Jay McDaniels has the potential to go up from. Let's say this year it ends up averaging 12.5 points per game. I feel like he has the eventual talent to, let's say, be an 18.5 point per game scorer down, 3 years from now. He has that potential. We just have to see if it can come to fruition.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Again, it's just not to sell stock. I'm still buying stock. The price is a lot higher, but you do, there's patience. There's all these things. You're still young. He didn't really have a rookie season with COVID and all that stuff in terms of like summer league and all that jazz. But it's just, this team probably still goes as far as Ant can eventually take them, or having Karl as a sidekick or Rudy. But the more that you get from Jaden, I mean, you're getting a good amount right now, and you're a 500 team. But if you can be a most improved couple votes guy in your career, and you've made that much of a leap, then this team looks drastically different. And unfortunately for him, you are now associated in the Rudy Gobert trade. Like the expectations are going to be higher because they, essentially kept you and paid more draft capital to keep you around. So I'm still very high on him. I think you are as well. He's kind of a freak athlete. He's just a guy you would create in a lab. But yeah, I hope that now that the illness is behind him, he is healthy, that you can see him make an impact, because when he's good, he's great. And when he's meh, he's pretty meh. So it starts tonight with Indiana in a tough matchup, and then, guarding the team's best player for the rest of the month.
Right. I suppose going into that, we could talk about the matchup tonight. I was looking at the injury report, and it seems like their whole team is on the injury report.
Oh, is that true? I was wondering. I saw they were like 4-point favorites, and I was like, why is that? But okay.
So like I think it's like 8 players are questionable or something.
Oh, and okay, and Tyrese Halliburton is out, so that makes a lot of sense. Miles Turner, who eviscerated the Timberwolves. I mean, again, I know that was the Wolves' best win in the season, but you're right. Tyrese Halliburton, Miles Turner, Chris Duarte, T.J. McConnell. But as we've learned, being Minnesota fans or covering the Wolves, like it doesn't matter if they're playing, I don't know, Edina High School. Like it doesn't matter. They can find a way to lose the game. So, and this Pacers team, I think they're on a pretty long road trip right now, and that can kind of grind you out a little bit. I don't know if I haven't. This might be the last game before they go home, but that's the thing too. Is like that last game of a road kind of trip. You're like, I just want to go home. So maybe they get a flat team, but these guys are also hella competitive, and it's like if the Wolves don't stomp them out early, that's probably the biggest bugaboo for this franchise is just taking lesser teams, for granted, and then all of a sudden in the fourth quarter you're down six. It's what happened to OKC. So yeah, they have a good opportunity tonight at home because again, if you go look at that schedule that I kind of hinted about, they go on the road for a while. Like they're pretty much on the road for between like next or tomorrow and like the next 10 days against teams like the Jazz, the Blazers, the Clippers, the Thunder, teams that you're kind of fighting in the playoffs for. So good opportunity tonight to get a win. Thanks for reminding me that there's no Tyrese Halliburton, so that should make life easier. But I don't know if you saw they got this second round kid. I don't even know his name, but he dropped like 40 against the Warriors the other night, and they beat the Warriors. So the Pacers aren't going to lay down, but the Wolves have a good chance tonight to kind of get back to 500 and maybe start some momentum that they can rely on.
This Pacers team actually reminds me of a few years back, the Magic team. I think it was Cole Anthony's rookie year. And
Oh, yep,
and
yep, that's a good one.
remember the game where Jared Vanderbilt missed two free throws, Cole Anthony goes down and hits the game winner. It just gives me vibes from that game. Like it just feels like it's gonna be one of those games. Hopefully, you know, or whoever ends up being playing doesn't go down and hit a game winner on us. But it gives like the vibe of, oh, we're a better team. We go in, oh, we're gonna win with ease, and then they come out and just punch us in the face, end up winning, and then even that, they come out the gates, punch you in the face, and then you end the game with them hitting a game winner, and you're just socked, you're just KO'd, like you're just done.
And that ties into leadership and a topic we've talked about all year with this Wolves team. But yeah, we get so caught up, and we were doing this during Timberwolves wins too. Like, yeah, the Wolves won, but did you know that their opponent was missing this guy? And yeah, of course, dropping a John Morant from a lineup or dropping, any given guy from a lineup, it hurts your talent level. But it's the NBA, man. Like these guys, we just talked about Matt Ryan, Luka Garza. These guys can't make rosters, and they're good and they're competitive and stuff. Like the Pacers still have the kid I was referencing is Nembhard.
Oh
He's a
yes.
rookie point guard. He had 31 and 13 against the Warriors. And if you go back and watch like highlights of the fourth quarter, he was Steph Curry. Steph Curry wasn't. He was the best guy on the court, just hitting these step back threes, getting to the rim. So the Pacers, if you find out later today that there's no Halliburton, there's no Miles Turner, like they're still gonna try. They're still gonna try to get a win. They're not really a tanking team right now. They're like 13 and 11. They're like top six in the East. So yeah, any given night, any team can win. But the Wolves, the worst thing they can do tonight is see the injury report and then just kind of jog out to their starting lineups. Like they're in a low key must win situation. You've dropped some games to the Hornets, to the Thunder at home. Like you got to remain competitive. You're right. A lot of time left, 60 some game or 59 some games, or whatever. But the more you don't take advantage of the schedule in front of you, the more pressure it puts on you in January and February. So good opportunity tonight to get a win, and hopefully, at home they can kind of get it done.
Yeah, I think are you a Vikings fan?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
So, okay, so you'll kind of understand this with the Vikings this year. Like it's been close win, close win, close win. Then you go on whatever social media you want to. Oh, we're missing so and so player. Oh, you got bailed out by the refs. Oh, whatever. And I've been living by the mantra of a win's a win's a win.
Yep.
But it's
I
a
mean, I'm with you. Tenant. I always tell my friends anytime because this is what you do with your friends. Like you kind of troll each other. I got friends that are Panthers fans and friends that are Packers fans. All stuff like just they text you things like, "Did you know that you have the worst point differential in I don't know NFL history for a team that's 10-2?" And I just text back 10-2. Like, yep, that's fine. 10-2. Like it is what it is. A win is a win. Would you feel better? I know this is I'm kind of stealing this from Mackie and Judd, but Would you feel better if the team was 8-4 but had a couple real good wins? Like, no, you wouldn't. You want to be 10-2. So again, what are we doing here? We're talking about the Minnesota Timberwolves. They have the lowest winning percentage in male professional sports. I've been through so many losses. I don't care if they go on a high school tour of Minnesota and beat up on all the high school teams. I will celebrate all those wins because they just don't do it that often. So again, it doesn't matter who's on the other side of the court. Just go beat them. You don't have to apologize. You don't have to dissect the anatomy of the Pacers and who they didn't have. But again, we can talk about this, but they can't. Like, they have to pretend that they're playing, the Rick Smiths, Reggie Miller, Chris Mullins Pacers tonight. Like, they have to take it seriously, because when they don't, you'll email me tonight 20 minutes into the game and the Wolves are going to be down 14-5. Like, what are we doing here? So don't take them for granted. But yes, a win is a win is a win. I like that. Vikings, Twins, Timberwolves, checkers, whatever. As long as I win, I'm happy.
Right. And darn well you'll be getting an email 20 minutes into the game. I'll be like, what? Why? This is Tyrese Halliburton out, Miles Turner's out, and we're getting cooked by some guy that we've never heard of. We don't even know how to spell his name, and some undrafted free agent guy. And it's not going to be the one guy you mentioned that lit up the Warriors. It's going to be a different guy. Like, I feel like if we don't come unprepared, that's exactly what's going to happen. You're going to get
This is the, if you had a recipe, this is the recipe tonight. Like 11-12 off a bad loss. You have way more talent. Banged up Pacers team. This has all the makings of another boo situation where, again, it's 14-5 and people are like, what are we doing here? So maybe therapeutically saying it, maybe talking about it in the locker room, like, hey, remember the last time we played a bad team and we sucked? Like, let's not do that again, is actually a good thing and how they get better. But yeah, I don't want to call a Pacers team a trap game that's 13-11 and playing better basketball than Minnesota. But without Halliburton, man, I mean, the best win this team had was against the Pacers. Granted, they had Karl. Granted, the Pacers were pretty healthy as well. But this is a team that they kind of match up pretty well against. And Ant said it earlier this week after practice. It's like this team kind of ebbs and flows as I go. So do you get the really aggressive Grizzlies Ant tonight, or do you get one of those kind of passive stand around viral video Ants tonight? That kind of will determine, whether you can get back to 500 or not. A really, really big game tonight for sure.
Right. Over under Buddy Hield, 42.5 points.
Oh my God. Can you imagine? Like, that? I'm still kind of triggered about 7 minutes ago when you brought up the Karl Anthony thing, because like I had done a pretty good job of getting over that and talking it through with my therapist. And like, now you brought it up again, but yeah, again, think about third quarter. If you send me an email like, man, Buddy Hield's 8 for 9 from 3, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. So the Wolves, for some reason, since I was born, just don't really have that killer instinct to just, it'd be great tonight. It would really fix a lot of stuff, even short term, is to just win by 30, right? Like, just don't go full Vikings, even though I love the Vikings and like win is a win is a win. Like, go just stomp a team down that, again, I looked it up. Like, this is the last game of their road trip. There's no reason that you can't just they just want to go home, man. They're close. They're on the West Coast. They have a layover tonight in Minnesota, basically. Like, just go stomp them out and everything will feel better. The vibes will be better. But if you go lose, it's going to be ugly on the timeline for sure.
I'm also like I think the same thing of, let's go win by 50 points. Let's just, no questions asked out the gate, we're up by 15. Like, consistency. Like, kind of like the Memphis game last year when we won by like 43. So,
Yep.
There's like part of that where I'm just like, let's just do that. Like, there will be no more questions on the timeline. There will be no more questions. We're just going to continue. But, being a Minnesota sports fan, we're going to have a 42-point win and then have an emotional layover and just lose the next 5 games. Like, it like, ideally that wouldn't happen, but just knowing from history, that would happen.
And I don't know if we're going to close it out with this, but one thing to do is, like, you can go back and just look at the schedule. Like, there have been so many, it feels like a textbook. There have been so many chapters of this season. And again, we've said it 100 times. We're a quarter of the way through the season. They had some really bad losses. They lost to the Spurs. They kind of got spanked by the Suns and the Bucks, just physically wise, and just outclassed. But they had a really good win against the Grizzlies. They had a 5-game winning streak, right? Like, they've had some really good moments, and we're only, it's what, December 7th. There's a lot of time left. So if you can reset yourself and win tonight and just kind of take it by the, take it by the balls, basically, um, there's no reason that moving forward you can't have a little momentum before you go on your own West Coast road trip. So not to put, the fate of the franchise doesn't rest on if they can beat the Pacers, but this is a really good opportunity before life gets harder to kind of go get a good win. But again, I always fall back to like, how much do they want it? Because a lot of this has just been effort. A lot of this has just been want to. And even on the 7th game of a road trip for Indiana, they've got guys that want opportunities to play. The Wolves have guys that should step up. Will they? We don't know. But I don't know. You've made me so nervous for tonight now. This is like the worst. I'm sweating whether or not they're going to win this game against the Pacers.
I might get an email.
So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I guess I say that thing about looking at the schedule and the chapters of this book. Like, there's still a lot to happen. There's still a lot of drama that could pop up. There's still a lot of good things that can pop up. Like, if you're 12-12, yeah, we thought you'd be higher in the West. But, one of my things is I do like to look at the standings every Monday or whatever. And, like, a couple Mondays, it was like the Jazz are first in the West. The Jazz are first in the West. And now it's like, oh, the Jazz are 10th in the West, or the Jazz are, 9th in the West. Like, it can move so much, though no one wants to take the Western Conference other than maybe Phoenix. So a good week of basketball can put you at the 4 spot. A bad week of basketball can put you at 13. And that's kind of the world we live in now with this team in this conference.
Right, 100%. It's a very tough league year in and year out, and we need to get the job done. That's simple.
Yep,
just need to get that job done. But I think we'll close it out with this final sentiment. Vikings or Lions?
Oh, dude. I do dabble in a lot of different spread pools and stuff for NFL and picks and stuff. I always get nervous when you look at a line, like a gambling line, and your first thought is like, well, Vegas has to be wrong. I don't know if you've been to Vegas how many times, but like, I've been there a lot. The casinos are really nice. They build those casinos off of people like us thinking like that line is way wrong. So I'm probably going to end up talking myself into buying into the Vikings getting a point or getting a point and a half. But there also is some validity to this idea. A win is a win is a win. I'm amped. I'm 10-2, but like, how at some point, how much does another team just need it more? Like the Wolves need this game more than the Pacers. The Pacers can say, we survived this road trip. We're going home. We're going to sleep in our own beds. We're 13-12 at this point. The Wolves really need it. The Lions really need this. On all the graphics on Fox, it's like in the hunt or sniffing around. The Lions are sniffing around. This would be their Super Bowl on Sunday. So do I think the Vikings have a legitimate chance to win? Of course. The Lions team is cooking offensively. But yeah, I'm going to ride with the Vikings. My flag's outside. I'm excited about that. But you do just wonder if they're going to run into a situation where another team just really wants and needs the game more, and your killer instinct just can't, you can't get up for it as much as Detroit. So I think the Vikings will win, but if the Lions do win, I'm not going to be, again, okay, we move on, 10-3, still have the division by a wide margin. So what's your take? Are you concerned about it, or?
I'm always concerned about a Vikings game. Always.
That's a good answer. Yeah.
Always. But I think the Vikings got it. I think Cam Dancer coming back, and I met a Caleb Evans.
He's sweet, yeah.
I met a Caleb Evans literally last week, I think.
Okay.
And great guy, great personality. Just sucks that he's out. 3rd concussion of the year, and having Cam Dancer back, is this the perfect time for him to be back? So.
I don't think Darrisaw's coming back yet, but it sounds like he's progressing. Which again, no reason to play him this weekend. You just want him to be. Once you start getting into that concussion thing and you get a second one, that third one can be, not good. You don't want to be collecting concussions in one season. So, yeah, I know, again, kind of like when the Wolves got out rebounded by 30 and beat the Grizzlies. I know the Jets basically doubled up the Vikings in offensive yards last Sunday, but there is, this isn't the most talented Vikings team ever. This defense has a lot of holes, and the draft class hasn't given you much yet. And I, believe Quezzy's going to continue to fill those holes and fill those gaps. I love the Hawkinson trade, but this team is overperforming. So overperforming teams are going to stumble. That's why the line is what it is against the Lions. But you just, God forbid, want to get out of that with healthy players, play well, maybe, establish the run a little more, get Delvin cooking, and then things should turn around. But it's been such a fun season. I mean, shout out to the Vikings. I don't care if they win by 1 or they never win by more than 7, but it's been such a fun Vikings season, and we're going to get playoff football. And if I would have told you that in September or August, you'd have been like, I'll just take playoff football anyway I can get it. And you're going to get a home game. It's going to be awesome. There aren't 5 better stadiums or, home field advantages right now than US Bank. So I'm excited, but now God, you just put me in a blender between this Pacers thing and now this Lions being favorited thing. So we'll see. It should be a good game.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming on. We'll have to have you on again here soon.
For sure.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. So yeah, guys, that was the video. Hope you guys did enjoy. Appreciate Kyle coming on, as I said. And maybe we can have Kyle come back on very, very soon. Maybe even halfway through the season, we'll end up seeing. But I appreciate you guys watching. Please remember to like, subscribe. It's been your boy, Jelson. And see you guys next time. Peace out.